How to deploy the controllers. Now, in this video, we will discuss the deployment of the controllers like vSmart, vBond, and vManage. If you want to deploy your controllers, these controllers can be deployed on multiple places like MSP, Managed Service Provider. You have cloud option to deploy your controllers like AWS and Azure Cloud can be used as an option. If you want to deploy the controllers on your premises, then you can deploy them on physical servers or on virtual machine hosts like ESXi servers. Just remember that these controllers, vBond, vSmart, and vManage, are not the physical devices. You will have to deploy them as a virtual machine. Now, from where to get the image of these controllers? First, you have to create one account on Cisco Commerce Workspace. If I can show you, I have already logged in to Cisco Commerce Workspace, and you can see over here, we can create one account. I have already created it, and we can download the images. First, you have to enter the details, and then you can download the images of your controllers. Next, after getting the images of the controller, you have to install them on VM host. When you are going to install these images on VM host, at that point of time, you are going to select few things in the settings options, which all these are like virtual NICs, RAM, CPU. Now, there are proportion of RAM and CPU, which you can check in the documentation of these controllers. Virtual NICs will be used for the interfaces of these controllers. For example, let's talk about vManage. If I have a vManage controller, this vManage controller will have one interface which can be used for the management of the device. So, first virtual NIC will be used over here. The second virtual NIC can be used at transport side. For example, we are connecting our vManage with a transport known as MPLS. In that case, second virtual NIC can be used. Okay, do I need a third virtual NIC? Yes. In case of clustering, if you want to add the vManage controllers into cluster, in that case, you will require a third virtual NIC. So as many virtual NICs you want, you can select it while installing the virtual machine or once the virtual machine is installed. Next, once you get the access, I'm talking about which access? I'm talking about CLI access of these controllers. Once you get the access of these controllers, you can configure them. Now, configuration is divided into three parts majorly. First, you need to configure the system settings. Second, transport interface. And the third one is management interface. If I talk about the system settings, in the system settings of a particular controller, you can add few configurations like system IP, site ID, vBond IP address, host name, and many things else. Transport interface will be configured, management interface will be configured. Apart from it, initial configuration can also contain not NIC, very sorry for that. It is known as NTP. NTP configuration can be there. And apart from it, license. We need to add the license. No, not the license. Sorry for that. Certificates. Certificates will be added to the devices. This will be part of initial configuration for a particular controller. If I talk about the topology, you can see that all the controllers are at the same location at the same site. For example, one of the organization can place their controllers in the data center, and from there, these controllers can reach all the other site devices. Just make a note of this that all these controllers have private IP addresses inside and they are connected to the gateway so that all the routers can get connected and overlay tunnels can be created. Now, very interesting question in my mind. What if let's say your controllers are working fine. You have added the routers at multiple sites for the SD-WAN topology. Everything is working fine. You have a single vBond device. Now, if you remember, in the last session, I told you why vBond device is used. vBond device is used for authentication. If your existing routers at a different site, lost connection with vBond, what will happen? Will there be any impact in the network? The answer is no. There will be no impact in the network if your existing routers lost the connection with vBond. Why? The reason is that my router have already made connection in the SD-WAN fabric. It do not need to communicate with the vBond anymore. So there will be no impact on the existing network. But if I want to add a new router in my fabric, in that case, I will face challenge. Next, what if my routers lost connection with vSmart controller? vSmart controllers are basically used for control plane. In the last video, as you have seen, vSmart is basically used for managing the control plane in your fabric. If my existing routers lost connectivity with vSmart controller, in that case, will there be any impact? The straight answer is for few hours, no. What I can say is from the last established connection with the router and vSmart controller till 12 hours, there will be no impact in your network if your router lose connection with the vSmart controllers. Why it is so? It is because router already exchanged the IPsec keys with vSmart controllers, and those keys can work in between the routers for how many hours? 12 hours. So there will be no impact till 12 hours, but after 12 hours, there will be impact in my network or on the established routers. And what about vManage? Let's say you lost connectivity or your routers lost connectivity with your vManage controller. Will there be any impact in the existing network? The answer is there will be no impact in the existing network, but what will be the loss? The loss will be you cannot monitor, you cannot troubleshoot, you cannot add more devices configurations, or you cannot upgrade your devices if the vManage is not available. This will be the answer to the question if your controllers are not available. Okay, do I need to only have one controller in the network? The answer is absolutely no. You can have redundant controllers in your network. There will be redundant controllers. Okay, in case of multiple vBond connections, you can see over here, I've already written in case of multiple vBond connections, routers need DNS to resolve the vBond IP address. Okay, how does this work? See, let's say in my network I only have one vBond device, and the IP address of vBond device is, let's say the transport interface have an IP address 10.0.0.1. When I'm going to configure a router under system settings, for example, on this router R1, under the system settings, I am going to configure vBond IP address as 10.0.0.1. But what I am saying is, if I have redundant vBond devices, for example, I have one more vBond device. This is a new router. R1, this router is a new router and it wants to get connected in the fabric. So it will first communicate with vBond. We have already done this. But this time I have two vBond devices. Their IP addresses are different. The second vBond device have an IP address of 10.0.0.2. This is vBond 1 and this is vBond 2. In this case, on my router, I am not going to add the IP addresses individually. What I will do is I will give a fully qualified domain name like vbond.com. Just an example. This is a fully qualified domain name. My router needs to connect with a DNS server, and this DNS server must be able to resolve the fully qualified domain name request into IP address, and this DNS server will reply back with the IP address of 10.1 and 10.2, which are the IPs of vBond device. So this is how redundant vBond devices can be added in your network. You know that vBond devices are used for authentication. Okay, what about multiple vSmart controllers? We can use the concept of affinity. What do I mean by concept of affinity? Okay, in affinity, what will happen is my routers can make limited number of connections with more vSmart controllers. Let's take one example. Let's take one example. I have a router. It is part of a site. There are two vSmart controllers and my router is connected with two transports. Okay, this is your vSmart number one. This is your vSmart number two. This is your router number two. This is your MPLS transport. This is your LTE transport. All are connected. The underlay is connected something like this. Now, these vSmart controllers are part of the data center, so I will not connect them directly with the transports, but yes, they have connection with both of the transports. Now, what I'm saying is in the case of multiple vSmart controllers, I can use the concept of affinity. What affinity says, affinity concept says that we can have, or my router can have maximum control connections, which is by default 2. That means with each transport, I am going to make from MPLS, I'm going to make connection with vSmart 1. With LTE, I'm going to make connectivity with vSmart 2. Complete policy will be created for that. Is it? Yes, the policy. No, I'm talking about not the policy. Templates will be created for that. In that case, what I am going to do is that is a long thing. We can make a separate video for that. But in short, what I will do is I will make vSmart one part of a controller group. Let's say number 10. I will make vSmart controller part of a controller group number 20. When we will create the template for the router, in this case, we are going to configure my router in such a way that router will establish a control connection from MPLS with the controller, which is part of controller group number 10. And my router 2 is going to make connection with vSmart controller number 2 or with vSmart controller, which is part of group number 20. Rewind it, see it again, what I'm talking, what I'm saying in the case of multiple vSmart controllers. Separate practical can be done for this. No need to worry about it. And the last is your vManage. If I want to add multiple vManage controllers in my network, in that case, what can be done? In that case, I can add the vManage controllers in a cluster. In your network, in your fabric, in your data center, you can add one vManage controller that will be a single standalone vManage controller, or you can add three vManage controllers inside a cluster vManage 1, vManage 2, and vManage 3. If you have more requirement, you have a large enterprise network, you can also have vManage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All these six vManage controllers will be added in cluster. They will be acting as active connection. Now, what usually happens is one vManage controllers have multiple databases like statistics database, configuration database, they have message bus. What will happen? My vManage 1, vManage 2, and vManage 3 are going to exchange these databases with one another if I'm adding them in a cluster. How can you add these vManage controllers inside a cluster? You will have to go to vManage 1, which is your primary vManage. You will be going in the settings, and inside the settings, you will have to go to cluster management option. Inside cluster management option, you will have to add the IP address of vManage 1, but which interface IP address? If you will scroll up, I few minutes back told you that you can add a third virtual NIC for clustering. IP address on this virtual interface will be added over here, and what you are going to do is similarly, once you add this IP address, enter it, save the settings, your vManage one will restart. If your vManage one restarts, it will come back up after some times. Then on the same vManage controller under the same settings, you will have to add the IP address of vManage 2. When you will do it, vManage 2 will restart, vManage 1 will not restart. Once it is up, some of the services can restart for vManage 1. You might have to log in back again on vManage 1, and then you are going to add the third vManage controller's IP address. This is how vManage can be added inside a cluster. So this is the case of redundant controllers you can add in your network. Which controllers? vSmart, vManage, and vBond. Let's finish up this section. We will meet in the next video in which I'm going to discuss about the routers deployment.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं फिल्मोरा है ना।